It is a beautiful Sunday morning here at Nola Motorsports Park for GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash in 2020. This is the start of the 2021 season, and it's been a relatively awesome weekend so far, I'd say. The weather has been cloudy, but nice conditions. It's been warm and a little bit windy. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined today by Abe Schmucker and Tom O'Gorman for what is sure to be another fun day of racing. Two separate streams today. One in the morning, we'll have a break for lunch, and we'll be back in the afternoon with more GLTC Time Attack and Drift here at Nola Motorsports Park. So Tom and Abe, welcome. Tom, yesterday we saw some amazing GLTC racing. That's coming up next, but first, Time Attack.
Yes. I thought you were going to throw me something. Yeah, it's starting off the day with Time Attack, and we saw some really quick laps yesterday. But these Time Attack guys starting off a little slow this morning because there's a lot of that moisture on the track that you're seeing looking over the entry to the front straightaway here at Nola Motorsports Park. But we did see some amazing action yesterday, and we suspect it will dry out. I think, as you mentioned, it's a beautiful morning. This is about as good as it gets in November anywhere in the country for a motorsports event. So we're thrilled to be down here and looking forward to the track drying out a little bit for Time Attack. It's not stopping a couple of our drivers getting their seat time because they came. Why not? And then obviously once we move into the wheel-to-wheel action, everyone's dealing with the same conditions, and that just makes it more fun.
Abe, we got more Time Attack coming up here. So yesterday we saw some epic battles in all the categories. More today for sure.
Street modified class. I think some commitments off the track kept him away from taking the green flag, but it may not work out very well for him this weekend unless the track dries out, because drivers were able to put down great times yesterday, and he may be struggling with a wet track for the afternoon. So we're not really sure what we're going to see here.
Yeah, one thing we saw from yesterday, because we got overnight rain all of Friday night into yesterday, was even though it was sunny at points, even though it didn't rain at all yesterday with any measure, it really never dried out completely. There was always some puddles, and I completely agree. If drivers didn't make progress yesterday or didn't take the track at all, in Jackie's case, they may be at a disadvantage all day today in Time Attack. We've got 4 cars on track: Nixon, Halka, Huang, and Bailey. And I was going to try to pull up some of the results from yesterday's Time Attack stuff, but this place is not really drying super quickly in certain sections. It's mostly just the big puddles. This place is a very bumpy racetrack. You see down the front straightaway all of that kind of inconsistent puddling. That's because those are actually bumps and rises in the pavement. And if they just don't dry out, no matter how much sun comes out, you might be going a little slower today.
So we see the battle at the front of the overall leaderboard is driver Casey Jones and Dylan Brown, both running rear-wheel drive unlimited cars, the Corvette and the Mustang GT350. But not far behind is Dalton Klein in his Corvette Z06 in the track modified group. And then I guess one of the standout drives so far of the weekend is Chet Mosley in his Street GT prepped Corvette with a 150.479. Were you able to find out a little bit more about that car yesterday?
I wasn't able to go find it, unfortunately. I got the evening got away from me a little bit with the streaming, and we actually streamed a sim race from the timing tower here last night, so that was kind of fun. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to find Chet, and he's not on track right now. And unfortunately, I also know that Dalton Klein, in that track modified car that sits 3rd overall, had, I think, an engine or transmission expire. I forget which, but that car will not be back out today. So Casey Jones and Dylan Brown, they're only sitting 8/10 apart in Unlimited. That's one of the closest battles we have other than Street Modified. The FCP Euro Street Modified category has a really good battle between Mike Amick and Chase Johnston. Neither driver on track right now, but they're only separated by 4/10 of a second. An STI leads the way with a 151.2 over a V6 swapped S2000 with that 151.6.
Yeah, and just kind of a distant third is Alex Westergaard in his S2000, which is a supercharged F-Series motor with a 154.460. So kind of an all-wheel drive car at the front, but being chased by a couple of S2000s. Not atypical for a GRIDLIFE Time Attack.
And that's the category we're going to keep an eye on, because that's the contender. Jackie Ding has not turned a lap at all. And he's usually in the hunt, so it's going to be a matter of whether the conditions allow him to and how quickly he can pick this track up. I don't think he's been here before. But we did just have a massive gust of wind, and it seems pretty sustained. So yesterday we didn't have much wind. We did have some sun. It's pretty overcast all day. The sun came out, and the wind is intense right here, right now. So that would actually help dry the track out more than the sun, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that we're here on the stream this morning watching Halka do some 2 minute and 3 second laps, I think, from the stream that I can see.
Yep.
Knowing that he is about 10 seconds faster in the dry. So the track is not wet, but it's not dry enough to put down your best.
Sure, and if you're joining us on the video stream, Josh Halka is the spec coming into the tight hairpin there on the right side of your screen. So he's turned laps about, like you said, 10 seconds faster than he's doing right now. His fastest lap's a 1:53.6, and that's out of the street category. So we've covered all the categories now as far as track records go. Halka's got that one. But even a 2:03.5 is nothing to turn your nose up at, and I can tell you from watching him through the S's alone, he's spraying going through puddles. There's significant standing water through sections of this track, and unfortunately that tends to pool right at the apex. If you look there just on turn 2, you can see a lot of that water pools kind of at the apex where the curbing meets the road. And that's obviously where you want the car if you're going fast, so that doesn't help much.
So maybe we can use this time to talk a little bit about the evening festivities, things that happened last night after the standard motorsport track, the grip track, went cold. Did you have a chance to spectate at all the double drift competition?
I actually didn't, because again, Kyle and I streamed a sim race last night, so
shoot.
we were sitting in the tower talking about more racing on the microphone.
It never stops.
It never stops, but because we weren't streaming the double drift, but I did get to see all the Instagram stories, all the Facebook posts, and all the stuff like that. I know our buddies Andy Smedgard and Robert Thorne ended up winning. They were the team drivers that ended up winning. And if you're like, what the heck's double drift? It was a karting drift competition on the karting track. Teams of 2 had an opportunity to enter and basically do kind of Monster Jam freestyle competition where they got to choose any route, do whatever they wanted. And I honestly wasn't really thinking that creatively. I was just kind of thinking, okay, they'll leave the pit lane and they'll pick a route and whatever. We had the winners, I think, ultimately started their run nose to tail. The front car started in reverse, did a J-turn, flipped around, and then they initiated their run. We had, drivers taking different routes and doing 360s opposite each other. There was a whole lot, way more creative stuff than I thought from what I saw, but unfortunately I didn't get to go watch it firsthand.
Yeah, I'll have to get on Instagram after we end the feed here just so that I can take a look and see what happened. It sounds really, really neat, actually.
Certainly a really cool spectator addition to GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash here. As we just saw the schedule for today, time attack right now, we've got GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 3 coming up in just under a half an hour. We'll be heading back to time attack later in the day at 12:20. We'll bring the stream back up live for that, as well as GLTC race number 4. Then I'll depart and leave Abe and Tom to cover drift and time attack. We'll end GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash, first time ever at Nola Motorsports. This has been a really fun weekend, though. And one thing I can't get over is how enormous this paddock is. And again, all the trucks that are here for the hurricane relief efforts are emptying out. And it's like the size of an airport. All this paddock space. This is a great place for a future festival, Tom. So I think, coming down the line, I think there's good things coming.
I don't think they know anything about music in New Orleans, though.
I don't think so either.
Brutal.
No, that'd be awesome. I mean, we're in one of the best places for that. So. Yeah. Totally agree that we've got every opportunity to put up. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, you didn't hear us much yesterday. We're watching the full road course. It's over 3 miles, 16 corners. It's a really cool track, but we also have a skid pad where they have drifting and autocross. A lot of times we're running drifting pretty much 24/7 over there. We have a go-kart track that when it's not running concession go-karts, we did that double drift competition over there last night, in addition to the giant paddock. So there's a ton of space, a ton of opportunity to grow for Bayou Bash. There it is. Look at that big old paddock.
That's actually really cool. I am super sad that I'm not there with you guys this weekend.
And it's a really cool facility, especially with the kart track on the other side of the facility. I have not gotten a chance to kart when we come back here, I'm karting, and I would like to cover karting. I think it'd be really cool to broadcast that.
I think it'd be so cool.
I think that's got to be in the cards at some point. Halka goes a little quicker. He's down to about the 2-minute 0.5 second mark right now, but not a whole lot of takers here this morning, as I guess the track conditions really not ideal for going super fast. And Abe, as we've discussed in the past, if the track conditions aren't ideal and you're not going to run your fastest of the weekend, there's not really a whole lot of reason to go out there and burn up tires and fuel.
Well, I guess it just depends on what you're coming here for as well. Halka will probably never be the person to turn down track time, and learning car control and how to get the most out of yourself and your car in conditions like this is an opportunity that not everyone is jumping, to the front of the line to take. And so kudos to him for going out and learning some additional car control. I'm sure that'll help him in the dry.
So we're getting these great aerial shots this weekend, and this has been a really unique broadcast from a camera perspective. We've been pretty much in the air for almost everything here, Tom, and this gives you a really unique perspective of this racetrack, partially because it's so flat. We can see everything out the window here as we get the checkered flag here for Time Attack Group A. We get we can get a really unique perspective that you don't really get to see at a lot of racetracks. I mean, we were just at Road America a couple months ago. There, you can really only see a couple corners at a time. So to see the entire place from a spectator standpoint is super cool.
Well, this place isn't much smaller than Road America by length. I think it's less than a mile shorter, but you can see the entire thing, less than a foot of elevation around the entire main road course. And I think most of that is, we've been joking, most of it's in the bumps because it is so bumpy in certain sections. But there's no measurable elevation really. When you're driving the car, it's completely flat as far as you're concerned. And it's also really, really challenging. It's a really ballsy track. I think a lot of drivers are having a really good time learning it, because this is a track that is kind of off a lot of people's radar, really. I don't know why. I think it's pretty underappreciated, especially in this section we're looking at now on the screen. Those are the fast S's. They're very similar to maybe the S's at Coda. I'm trying to think if there's any other track that really has big S's like that, but they just kind of go on forever. And you're in well over 100 miles an hour on the entry, and if your car's hooked up, you're doing over 100 miles an hour the entire time, which is rowdy. And you can use all those curbs, tons of speed, especially if you got some aero. You can lean on that a little bit, and this track has been a ton of fun for drivers to kind of get their heads around, because we do have a couple local drivers, but not a lot. We got a lot of GridLife regulars coming down from other sections of the country and experiencing NOLA for the first time.
Well, it's kind of a unique experience as well, right? And, we're into November now, and in the Midwest, the racing season is effectively over. So drivers getting this kind of final opportunity before starting their winter builds and things, come down to New Orleans and do one more event and bank some points for the start of 2021.
So checkered flag is out here, waiting for Group B to head out on the racetrack. I think we'll step away for just a moment, and we'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to Grid Life Live from Nola Motorsports. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Abe Schmucker for Time Attack Group B. I think Tom McGorman has left us just for a moment. He'll be back momentarily. But Abe, Group B, there's a lot more cars out on the racetrack now. So while Group A was relatively quiet, Group B has got a ton of cars coming, and Jackie Ding has found his way onto the racetrack in the TA90 Supra.
Yeah, this is probably a great opportunity for him to get to the track and learn a little bit before the sessions really start to matter a lot. And so it looks like it's kind of brightened up there at the circuit, and it looks like the track is drying out some. So this will be a good chance for drivers to manage some transitional pavement and try and shake the cobwebs out before the sessions, the remaining sessions for today.
Yeah, I do think the track is drying out relatively significantly. This morning when I first got up here, there were big puddles, and this track is so bumpy that it sort of collects water all the way down the straightaways. There still are some puddles towards the end of the straightaway, but they're not quite as bad now as they were this morning. So I think you can easily dodge them at this point, and I think drivers might decide, like Jackie did, to come out a little bit later and run some laps. And Tom has rejoined us. Tom, Group B, a lot more cars out on track.
There are a lot more cars, and I just stepped outside real quick. And I can confirm the sun is out, fully out, and the wind is pretty significant. So I think this track's going to dry a lot quicker. May not dry fully again like yesterday, but I think it'll be fun to see how close to those 151s can Jackie Ding get. He's coming across the start-finish line now in that Supra to take his very first laps of Nola Motorsports Park.
Looks like we had a spin. Can't see which car aerially here.
Oh, that's
red something.
Yeah, Lisa Keys in Little Red's Little Civic goes for a ride coming through 13 and 14. There's pretty significant standing water in 13, so probably wet tires and just went for a ride.
So track's still drying out, of course, but with the sunshine and the wind, I expect by the time attack, heat 5, should be much better conditions. We saw Halka running about a 2-minute lap time, which is about 7 seconds off of his dry weather best. So the track's still coming into its own here on Sunday.
The wind is really gusting at the racetrack right now. The leaves in front of us blowing pretty heavily. Tom, how much does the wind affect cars on racetracks, especially the places this flat? Is that a concern at all? Headwind, tailwind, side wind? Big deal?
Usually if you're, a really, really aero-dependent car, especially like a prototype or an open-wheel car, that's a different conversation. With these time attack cars, for the most part, they're not going to notice. The thing that might help, especially if you're, Matt Williams in a spec fit, it's an intense tailwind right now. It's exactly straight down the front straightaway as a tailwind, and then it's a headwind into the S's, which isn't as big of a deal. So you might get like a little bit of DRS, a little boost. Push down the front straightaway.
Speed boost.
Yeah, speed boost. Spood beast? Speed boost.
Spood beast. I like that.
But I think the bigger thing is just helping to dry the track out. You can see the reflection of the sun in the puddles. Watching cars enter those S's. This is such a fun section. Over 100 miles an hour into that right-hander. Dab of the brakes, chuck it back to the left. Try not to get too behind early on, and then you can pick the throttle up, and it's flat out the rest of the way through. And anything that handles any better than a cop car probably, even in a cop car maybe. But just kind of rocking the wheel back and forth, hustling the car through. Most of the drivers looking very, very tentative through these first couple of laps, but Jackie Ding comes across 158.2. Halka was off by, 10 seconds to start? Ended up maybe 7 seconds off? All right, so if we take 7 seconds off of Jackie Ding, that's a 151, which is where the rest of the street mod is. That's pretty close. Sounds like a good start.
You know what I've been surprised about this weekend, though, Tom, is this racetrack really plays into the momentum cars. You know what's interesting to me is the time attack cars typically, especially in the street mod or track mod category, are running 10, 15 seconds a lap faster at some tracks we go to. Here, I feel like the times are a lot closer between the GLTC cars and some of the time attack cars. It seems like it's only a few second difference, maybe because of the momentum factor that plays in here.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday a little bit, but especially at those S's, there's a couple other corners that you want to compare the fastest car on the property, which is a Corvette C7 Z06, Casey Jones driving, and the fastest GLTC car, which is Eric Coutil. They're probably 500 horsepower difference. They both have some aero. They're both on very similar tires. But if you're rocking a car through those S's back and forth, physics doesn't change much between the two cars. You know, the Corvette really excels when you can get in a straight line or digging out of a corner at low speed where that torque comes into play. These S's that we're looking at on camera, those cars are going the same speed through there, I promise you. Maybe within a couple mile an hour, and maybe even faster for the Civic. So that's why I think we're seeing the times come closer together. But also the GLTC cars are running near each other, and you can learn off of each other how to go quicker if you're closer to one another, where the time attack cars tend to be a little more spread out by themselves, and the opportunity for speed may not be so obvious and visible between drivers.
Yeah, so I just looked. If you compare the overall fastest time attack time yesterday to the fastest GLTC time recorded, what we're talking about is a difference of 3 seconds on a track that's almost 2 minutes long, which to me is incredible, right? I think it's a testament to just how fast the GLTC cars can be in some of these corners.
Waving yellow into turn 1, but Jackie Ding did complete a second flyer, and that's a 154.5. So he's finding speed pretty quickly. Safety vehicles coming out of pit lane with lights on.
Yeah, there's a car stopped over there at the exit of turn. Oh, I thought there was. I think that's just a safety vehicle.
No, it's actually pulled off into the access road of turn 2 and 3. So it's off the track, totally safe. Drivers in the car, but there's going to be a standing yellow. Probably not many fast laps right now, let alone the track conditions.
And the number 401 Super K retirement project car jumps up into second overall with a 204.611. That is an FCP Euro Street Mod car. Cal Fortner, also an FCP Euro Street Mod car in the number 14. He's got that car working nice today, 207.145 for him. Third right now in the session.
That's impressive for the Super K retirement project. Alex Moss is driving that, right, Abe?
Yep, that's right.
He did a 202 flat yesterday. He's only at a 204.6 today, so the puddles may be going away a lot faster than we expected. So I don't know that it's going to be fun to see how much more time Jackie Ding can find, because he's close to about that same gap, putting him right with the top of Street Modified. So we might end up with 3 cars at the top of the FCP Euro Street Mod.
So, while we're here speculating, if the track dries out and Jackie continues to get comfortable, what do you think the chances are that he goes faster than the 1 minute time point? Or excuse me, the 1 minute 50-second time point.
Oh, pretty high. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jackie at the fastest overall by the end of this, just from the standpoint that he's probably the most developed, purposeful track time attack car here. You know, that C7 looks like more of a track day car that he likes to come drive fast. I don't think it's built for any particular time attack. It's not necessarily maximized to any particular rule set, and Jackie is. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him into the 48s, 47s if the track goes fully dry. I'm going to throw the gauntlet. Jackie, go do it.
Yeah, 148.261 is the time to beat, and Jackie's got, 6 seconds now to try and close that gap on a track that he's never been to, in track conditions that are not optimal here yet. Definitely possible.
So I got the opportunity to drive that car, actually, and its biggest weakness is the brakes. And it's not because they don't stop, but it's because the electronics of that car do not like to stop on a track environment. They freak out. They don't like to trail brake into corners. They don't like to do multiple things at once. The ABS panics and doesn't know what quite to do. This track is not a heavy braking track. There's really only maybe 1.5 heavy braking zones. Turn 1 is not a very heavy braking zone. And then the other one is kind of into turn 13, where we're watching that BMW hard on the brakes, but you kind of dive into that corner pretty fast too. So I think, we're talking like in GridLife Touring Cup terms, this track really plays into the strengths of Eric Coutil's car because it's good at high speed, fast momentum sweeps. I think that's what Jackie's car tends to do well as well.
And we actually got a chance to look at the data from Eric Coutil's car yesterday, and it was so interesting to watch to compare his car with others on the racetrack and see the lines of how much more speed he carries in the corners versus he's actually slower in the trap speeds than most of his other competitors. So again, I think having a car that is dominant in the high-speed sweepers is going to make you fast here at Nola.
So we talked a little bit about the undulations on the circuit. What can you say, Tom, about how you manage the brake pedal, especially in a car without ABS, on a track like this where the braking surface is not consistent?
Yeah, that's tricky because a car with ABS, you can kind of be a butthead on the brakes and ask the car to do whatever you want, and the ABS will help you sort it out. And you might have to play with the balance of ABS to make sure that you're not triggering the ABS when you try to turn the car in, because that will bind the car up and make it not want to turn, if that makes sense. But a car without ABS, while you don't have to deal with that, you do have to deal with the pressure on the brakes extremely kind of undulating through those bumps. You have high pressure and low pressure points, and on those high pressure points you have to be really careful not to lock the brakes. So the ABS might be able to pulse and not pulse throughout those bumps and kind of do that for you, but I don't know of a person on the planet that could modulate the brake pedal on and off to offset those bumps. So you kind of have to find the happy medium of just not locking up when the car is compressed, and then you might not be getting maximum stopping force while the car is kind of airborne for a minute. The really only spot that comes into play is down into turn 1. and you have a big opportunity to kind of break a little bit early, roll a little bit more speed through there, but it is a challenge for sure.
Jackie Ding just came soaring across the start-finish line. I think he's setting up for one more flyer here. The flagman is holding the checkered flag. It's not out yet, but I think this will probably be one of the last opportunities to get a lap in before the crews go out there and recover the car that stopped over by turn number 2. So Jackie's he came sailing by. That car's really fast in a straight line too, Tom. He's got 2 different modes in that car, and one of them he calls kill mode. It's got, I think, north of 700 horsepower in that configuration.
Just over 600, yeah, 600. About 610, I think, is what he claims.
Yes.
Obviously. That's what he claims publicly.
More than 5.
More than, definitely. The low horsepower is more than 5, I think.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of room to breathe, as the straightaway we're using is well over half a mile. But the full straightaway here at Nola, down the left side of your screen, that's a full mile. It's a long way.
So how would you describe the kind of the aerodynamic performance of Jackie Ding's car? I mean, that compared to some of the cars that you've run even in Pro Series, it seems like it looks like it's very well developed. What did you experience when you were driving it?
Well, in context here at Nola Motorsports Park, the aerodynamics are really important because a lot of the track is pretty high speed, basically from turn 5 all the way back to the braking zone into turn 13. That's a really significantly aero-dependent section of the track. You're above 70, 80 miles an hour the entire time, and sometimes up north of 130, depending on the car. Probably in the case of Jackie's car, just touching 130 on the way into the S's. So aero is absolutely in effect at that speed. I was a Gingerman, and it was a little bit damp, so I don't know that I get a full sense, but it felt very balanced. It was better than I expected, to be honest, from watching the car. And inside, I thought, whoop, there we go, 150.9 in damp conditions for Jackie Ding. He goes to the top, claims the track record in FCP Euro Street Modified, so he did set up for that flyer. And did not let the conditions slow him down. And that's why I think, if we get properly dry track, I wouldn't be surprised to see 47s or 48s from that car, but he'll definitely go sub 150.
My goodness.
But what
that's really quick.
Yeah.
So he'll get another flying lap in here if he decides to go for another one. I don't think he looked like he was slowing down a whole lot. We'll see if he does another.
No, he was on the brakes right after the start-finish.
Gotcha.
Line, so.
Cal Fortner maintains 3rd, and he's going to actually, Ken DeVries is going to jump up and in street with a 207.014. So he'll jump to 3rd, push Cal Fortner to 4th. Looking down the rest of the order, really, there is an unlimited car with Joel Phillips in the 44, but it's the FCP Euro Street Mod cars as Cal Fortner goes back to 3rd. They're having a great scrap at the top of the ticker right now.
Cal's car sounds really cool across the start-finish, too. If you can hear the faint V8 sound in the audio, that was a big V8 Audi. Cal Fortner coming across the start-finish line. The checkered flag looks like it's going to fly this time for the next car. It's that Focus we're watching, trying to get a number on it. See who that might be. That's probably Kevin Ding. Focus RS.
Coming through the final corner now, and looks like he's off pace at the moment, just a little bit. Maybe he'll throttle back up to the start-finish line. There he is. Comes across the line. Checkered flag waves in Time Attack Group B here this morning at GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash, and that is the number 234 of Kevin Ding across the line in street all-wheel drive at 2:22.382. His best time of the session at 2:15.305. And safety vehicle's about to roll and go recover the car that's over by turn number 2. But what's coming up next here, guys? We've got GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, race number 3 of the day, setting up here in just a few minutes. Then we'll go down for a couple hours, take a lunch break. We'll be back with Time Attack again at 12:20 Central Time. And then GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4 at 1. I'll dip out, leave Tom and Abe to call drift, and one more Time Attack session for the day. And that'll be it from GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash here in November of 2020. It's been a fun weekend. We've had a lot of fun action, especially in GLTC. The mid-pack battles have been good. So if you're not familiar with GLTC, Tom, we got to tell people to stick around because that's quite the show, and it has been that all year long.
Yeah, big time. We're shifting over from Time Attack, where the single fastest lap counts over the entire weekend, to wheel-to-wheel racing, where when the green flag flies, you got to race back to the checkered flag. It's a 15-minute sprint, and it's never boring. The conditions are the same for everybody, and when you're going side by side, sometimes you just can't avoid the puddles. So things are going to get really interesting coming into race number 3. We've got a lot of storylines to talk about in GLTC, but I think I'm really going to stick up here and sit on the edge of my seat to see some of the time attack competitors that didn't turn laps come back out when the track is dried out. I think it's safe to say it's pretty quick at this point based on that 150.9. But then also see what can a driver like Jackie Dane continue. He's basically a day behind on the competition, call it 2 days behind almost, and where can he get to?
Well, to be fair, you haven't really sat down all weekend. You've been standing, and I don't think you can sit. You've been so excited about GLTC. I get excited, too, and I get fired up about it. But, again, the conditions are a little different today because we're having such a race so early in the morning here, Tom, that there still are some puddles around here. And while that might not matter because when you're in time attack, you can run the perfect line all day long. In GLTC, you have to run offline to accommodate other cars next to you. So how much will the puddles play into what we're about to see? Yeah,
it's going to be a big deal. And this is going to be very similar conditions to what we saw in practice yesterday. I can tell you from my most of a warm-up lap that there was, standing water in certain sections that was just completely unavoidable. There were places that you had to adjust your line. Even, a time attack car on a perfect lap would have had to adjust their line. So these drivers have seen these conditions before. They practiced in them yesterday, but it's not going to make it any easier. And again, wheel-to-wheel racing, when we throw the green flag, you don't get a chance to reset. You don't get a chance to oops through a puddle and splash for a second and then go for it again. There is no resetting like we've seen the time attack cars using the puddles to cool the tires down. The drift cars using the puddles to cool the tires down. GLTC doesn't work like that.
It certainly doesn't. And Abe, you got to watch all that GLTC racing yesterday. One thing that stood out to me was how well Eric Cattill's car fit this racetrack. But it's been the mid-pack battles, which have been the show all weekend, which typically the racing here in GLTC is always at the front of the field, and there's racing everywhere, but we're focused on the front. This week it's been a little bit different, and I'm excited to watch those mid-pack battles continue in race 3 here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I had a chance right before we started the broadcast to do a little slip angle segment with Andrew Rains from Apex Pro, and he was talking about his races and qualifying yesterday, and we speculated on the race 2 yesterday that, it was race 1 that Luke McGrew went out on rains. Not only did he go out on rains, but the car was essentially set up in full rain mode. And Andrew said that it was drizzling at the time of that race, and he had his wipers on at least at during the pit section. But the track dried out really quick, and McGrew paid a pretty substantial penalty in pace for having the car set up that way. But in race 2, of course, he kind of got everything right and was able to finish in second overall position yesterday. So look for him to be quick here in race number 3.
Well, I think Luke McGrew, we saw him go out in rain mode, and I think maybe he was expecting lightning to strike twice. He tried the same strategy at Midwest a couple weeks ago. That totally worked. He went out and won the race. So maybe that was the expectation, but that wasn't the reality, unfortunately. And when you decide to choose rains or dries, Tom, it's been a kind of a crapshoot this year. We've had a lot of wet racing. So how do you make that decision? If you're sitting on the grid deciding whether to go out on wets or dries, what factors into that decision for you? Oops, sorry, I turned you off.
Hello. When in Luke's case, it was because it was sprinkling in paddock, and he's like, well, if it's sprinkling, it's probably going to keep sprinkling. And that's kind of why he made that choice a couple weeks ago, and it paid off last week. Didn't pay off yesterday. In my mind, it kind of comes down to half radar, half skies. If you're going to look at the radar, you kind of have to be a little bit more of a gambler. But if the sky says it's going to rain, it's probably going to rain. And then it just comes down to whether or not you trust yourself to gamble on that choice. But it is certainly something that can pay off, but more often than not, it doesn't. But when it does, you look like the most incredible decision-maker hero guy of all time.
Well, that's what Luke looked like at Midwest a few weeks ago. We also had a similar backwards situation in race 4 at GridLife Midwest at Gingerman Raceway, where we had everybody go out on wets, and the race ended up being dry, and that threw a bunch of chaos into the mix. I don't think that'll be a situation we'll run into today. I think the forecast is looking, while maybe slightly cloudy, is looking fairly dry. And we got caution displayed at the start stand as we're just waiting to get the car removed from the turn 2 area before we roll onto the grid for GLTC race number 3. Of course, we've got race 4 coming up at 1 p.m. Central with time attack interspliced in between and drift and time attack to close out the day here. We have not seen a whole lot of drivers take the full course drift, Tom, but I know you've gotten a chance to drift around, slide around a little bit in the past. No?
Yeah, I got to do it yesterday.
Yeah, how was that?
I got to drive the drift trainer. Andy Smedgard felt bad for me, I guess, when I blew my engine up and threw me the keys to the 350Z, and I went and skidded around on the skid pad here, which was a ton of fun. Got to do some tandems, got to do some triples with some buddies, and drifting is a ton of fun. But it was kind of fun to have Andy explain to me like why it wasn't the point to go fast and why it wasn't the point to be tight to the barrels, and why he was like it's not the same thing, and my brain doesn't work like that. My brain's like, I got to win, I got to win, I got to win. So I could totally see, motorsport for a totally different reason. And it was a ton of fun to experience it for the first time like that.
Are you going to be a professional drift pro now?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that's what you do next.
Maybe I'll probably blow that car up too.
Oof. All right, so still kind of in a holding pattern here before we get race 3 underway for GridLife Touring Cup. I see the field lined up, and don't have a lot of service here right now. I was going to fire up the starting grid, but we can't quite do that just yet.
Here.
Oh, you got it? Well, you got it in your hand. Thanks, Tom. So on the front row today, it'll be Eric Cattell and Luke McGrew. And, of course, this is set by finishing order from race number 2. And McGrew charged from the towards the tail of the field up to second place. Then Todd Cayley and Justin Lee will line up 3rd and 4th. Dyson Pham, who's been mighty consistent this weekend and across the GLTC. His only other event was Circuit of the Americas back in February. He's pretty good. He could get a podium out of this today. Andrew Rains, Andy Smedgard, I think it'd probably be Solomon again today. Scott Robertson, he's had a fantastic weekend and was driving super well and super defensively yesterday as the field rolls off now, Tom, and we're about to get the pace lap underway.
Yeah, to continue running down the grid. Again, this is set off of the finishing order from race 2 yesterday, so there won't be any major surprises. But you got left off at Andy Smedgard and Scott Robertson. That's the 4th row. Then it's the silver Miata and the black RSX of Eric Meadows and Jeremy Boysen will start alongside each other in row 5. Scott Adams in a white, older-bodied Acura Integra will start alongside Patrick Reyes in a black Honda S2000, who had a great battle with Frederick Scott in a mid-90s Mustang. That car is not on the grid, so he won't take the start, which means Brian DeFries will get moved up a spot to 12th, starting alongside Patrick Reyes in that 6th row. Then Dane Bird and Dai Wynn will start alongside each other in a blue CRX and a white Honda Civic. Finally rounding out, looks to be that William McDonald is back out there. That's great to see. We thought the engine was expired, but he's on the grid in the final car, taking to the field in 17th.
And he was super competitive yesterday as well, so I'm hoping that if it was a motor issue, it holds out for the rest of the weekend. Those FA20s in those BRZs and FRS 86, whatever you want to call them, they're not known for being the strongest motors around, but Pervez Randelia has got one in his car, and it's been one of the more reliable GLTC machines, so hopefully that's the case for McDonald as well. Field heads down, and on a scouting lap like this, Tom, you really want to figure out where are the puddles, where do I not want to be entering turn number 1, because if you're on slicks and you hit that water puddle, you're going to be going for a ride.
Yeah, for sure. So I think those puddles are going to be a big storyline. I'm just looking at the grid, and throughout, there's a couple of storylines. The first one is going to be what can Luke McGrew do in the black Miata that starts on the outside of the first row. He's the only driver that has been closest, or he is the closest driver to Eric Cattell's raw pace. If he can get to the lead early and hold Eric up a little bit, we'll have a race. Todd Cayley got to look at Eric Cattell's data in that silver S2000, so he knows where a little bit more speed might be, and he's going to be trying that. The yellow S2000, Andy Smedgard's been begging Ronnie to let him race it once, so that car might come alive. Not to say Ronnie's not driving it as fast as it can go, but Andy Smedgard knows that car inside out, upside down, right side up.
I did just get confirmation from Andy that Ron is driving here in race 3, and I think it's a toss-up on race 4.
Okay, so it'll be Ronnie this time. So the yellow S2000 is the same as we've seen. The blue S2000, Dyson Pham actually sent me a message yesterday on Instagram, and I owe him an apology. We called out that he might have made a mistake that put him further back in the field in race 1. He actually had contact with Jeremy Boysen. It spun him out into the access road, so there was a little bit of damage to that car, and one of the wheels was damaged as well. So he's actually on a set, I think, of sticker tires for today. Yes, he is on stickers for today, so that car might be a little quicker. And then again, back towards the back of the field, William McDonald was really competitive, starts at the back, but only has about 16 cars to drive through if he wants to get towards the front.
I'm looking at the racetrack now, and you can see just offline in the S's a few bits of standing water left, and that's a high-speed area. So I think the first couple laps, I think drivers are going to be scrambling to get single file just so they don't have to drive through any of that. But we know that some of these drivers will get a little bit greedy, and they're going to get creative with how they make passes here, Tom. So if you're we got FPV today.
Look at that.
That's awesome. I love having FPV, and that's our buddy Hunter, who's got the camera, the GridLife flight bird around the racetrack right now, chasing everybody, and that'll be an epic view to watch all afternoon here today. So our buddy Ed CZ in the pace car going to peel off here in just a moment. Eric Cattell and Luke McGrew up on the front row in a 2.5 Duratec swapped NC MX-5. That car has been not the most reliable thing in the world, but when it has been reliable, it's been very, very fast, Tom. So maybe someone can dethrone 2-for-2 Eric Cattell here in race number 3.
Yeah, I think the black MX-5 on the outside of the front row has to lead into turn 1 if he wants to make this race a challenge for the white and red Civic. But Cattell's been perfect on the weekend. Track record pole on every race, wins in every race. They're coming up to the green flag for race 3 in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup.
At Nola Motorsports for race number 3, GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, the popular wheel-to-wheels racing series that has taken the grassroots racing scene by storm. And so has Eric Cattell this weekend in his 92 Civic Si. Green flag is in the air, and we're racing at Nola Motorsports down the front straightaway, side by side, thundering down to turn number 1.
Cattell's already broken away, but Luke McGrew might have a little bit of legs on him. They're going to go side by side into the braking zone. They're on the brakes at the exact same time, and McGrew is going to hold that outside, but this is where some standing water is. Can he do it? Look at the splashes. He does. He keeps the nose there. McGrew is doing exactly what he needs to do to make this a challenge, and Justin Lee takes over that third spot. Now side by side between Andrew Rains and Todd Cayley. Cayley having a terrible start so far.
Yeah, Luke McGrew, did he pull the lead away from Eric Cattell? It looked like he was on the inside going through turn number 3. They're still side by side for the top spot. Cattell around the outside in the front-wheel drive Civic, a rear-wheel drive Miata, drag racing through the first sector here at Nola Motorsports.
And now he inherits the inside, but there's some puddles on the right side of the track. McGrew holds the outside, which is now the preferred line into turn 5. Look at all that standing water. The EG splashes. They're still side by side for the entire duration of this race so far. This is incredible. And McGrew outside again. They're still stuck there. Justin Lee up to 3rd, Andrew Rains 4th, Cayley 5th. But look at that. McGrew still has not cleared him.
He's got him. Luke
Finally
McGrew to the lead. He's taken the lead away from Eric Cattell, who's been dominant this weekend. And who's sitting there in 3rd? Is that Justin Lee?
It is.
Here he comes in a similar prepped car, drag racing down the back straightaway. McGrew, Cattell, and Lee 1 through 3.
One thing we didn't get to talk about is rewards weight. Eric Cattell has an additional 150 pounds bolted into that car, 75 pounds per win. The rest of the cars in the top 3 have no rewards weight in them right now. Luke McGrew only has 50. Justin Lee should only have 25. Cattell has a run towards the back of McGrew into turn 13. That MX-5 is so good on the brakes, he's not going to get it done this time. Through the rest of the field, look at how close it is for the lead. Andrew Rains is having a good start. He's on some treaded racing tires, so he might actually have an advantage in these conditions in certain sections.
Big splash over the water in the curbing, but he's got to look up the inside now in the final corner. Cattell underneath Luke McGrew as they come through turn number 16. McGrew slams through a puddle, and now they're drag racing on the front stretch. Who leads lap number 1? It's a drag race. Civic versus MX-5 down the front straightaway in GLTC. Lap number 1 goes to McGrew.
The power of the Duratec comes alive, and the number 5 car will lead the first lap. So that's the first lap that Eric Cattell has not led in competition this entire weekend. He's going to get on the brakes late down into turn 1 and some of the battles further back. But Andrew Rains looking up the inside of Justin Lee. They're going to go side by side in turn 1.
Big splash for Justin Lee up over the water, and right behind them is Todd Cayley, who didn't get a very good start, but for the lead, less than a car length between them as they head through the first sector here, Tom. This is an epic battle. I did not expect the rewards weight to affect Cattell this much, but he seems like, I don't know, he'd say he's struggling, but he's definitely not as fast as he was yesterday.
Well, that's why I love that rewards weight model. So the battle at the front is hot, but also Andrew Rains had a pass completed on Justin Lee until they got to the brakes for turn 3. Lee completed the repass, and now Rains is up in front of Todd Cayley, but Cayley's looking racy in that silver S2000, hunting back and forth. Look at the torque on that BMW. Gaps him by 2 car lengths coming out of turn 4.
And I said yesterday when we were talking about the data we saw in Cattell's car, he was so much faster in the corners. The problem is it's really tricky to pass here where Cattell's car is good. So I thought that if he got into some traffic, he would have trouble getting back to the front. He's still second right now, but the battle for 4th is getting very, very intense.
They're side by side coming into the S's right now. Cattell has the inside, which is the strength of his car. They're going to go side by side. No, McGrew shuts the door. They're just off camera right now, so we're watching the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But the battle for the lead, look at how close they are.
Here they come. Eric Cattell out the outside. McGrew slams the door again as they sweep through the S's. Cattell's unable to make the pass in the area where his car is fastest. A good run here down towards turn number 13. Still a car length separating them as they head into the final sector. For 3rd place behind him, Lee now under attack from Rains.
And Rains is going to show the nose. They're side by side at the apex of 13, but Lee carries the momentum around the outside and will recomplete that pass. So this battle for 3rd is not complete at all either. Don't forget race 4, real quick, it's worth noting. Race 4 is an invert in the top 4 to 12 cars. So anybody from Andrew Rains back could inherit the pole position going into race 4. You're shaking your arms.
I'm so excited. This is so fun to watch as they come down the front straightaway, nose to tail. McGrew again stretching the gap. That thing's like a muscle car. It's like his Viper as he heads down the front straightaway. Now 3rd place is settled. Right now, it's Justin Lee. Better battles behind him, too. There's Scott Robertson with Eric Meadows behind him, Jeremy Boysen, and Ronnie Solomon. All having a good scrap for the top 5 positions.
Andrew Raines trying it again. This didn't work last time, but he's going for it one more time. Look at the speed that Lee can carry around the outside of those corners despite the puddles, but then the torque of that BMW powers ahead, and he completes the overlap. But look at the brakes on the MX-5. Dives up the inside and takes it back. Lee and Raines are going at it hard, and Todd Cayley is just looking to try to figure out, how can I use this to my advantage? Todd Cayley has the most rewards weight next to Eric Coutil. He's got 50 and 25 pounds respectively bolted in that car, 75 pounds total.
Great battles all throughout the top 10 right now. Drivers trying to avoid the puddles and keep their tires out of the water and away from hydroplaning. Luke McGrew has been a force to be reckoned with here today after Eric Coutil won 2 races yesterday by over 20 seconds. But as soon as he got behind Luke McGrew, he's been unable to recomplete a pass. And I think it's because of where his car makes speed relative to McGrew here, Tom. He's got a lot of work to get this job done.
Yeah, and that's exactly what McGrew needed to do.
Oh, they're side by side. Oh, for a moment.
Once again, side by side into the S's, but McGrew just has the ability to close the door on the way into the S's. Coutil's car's faster through this section. Look at him hunting around and not losing any speed.
Here he goes.
He's going to try the overlap, and there's a big puddle on the inside. Oh, he's going to splash for a second. Just clears him in time.
Eric Coutil to the race lead, splashing through the puddles. McGrew has lost the top spot, but he's going to try to thunder by again on the front straightaway. Meanwhile, for third place, Justin Lee's got it. Andrew Raines is behind him, as well as Todd Cayley, still putting the pressure on. Battles behind them, Eric Meadows, Jeremy Boysen. That is for, I believe, 7th spot. But onto the front straightaway now. McGrew's going to fire up and throttle down that Duratec 2.5 as he comes to the start-finish line.
And McGrew's lost a little bit of touch. I don't know that he's going to be able to close that gap and get alongside into the brakes for turn 1, but that car is really good on the brakes. He's starting to pick up the draft. How about Scott Robertson, really fast, up to 6th from 9th on the grid. He's killing it in his street-driven to the racetrack race car. That's the red Miata going down the front straight there.
Good battle for third. That continues. Coutil just ran a 1:56.578. That's the fastest lap of the race so far, and he did it while passing Luke McGrew. Up front, you're going to see the specs off in the distance. They continue to battle. For third, it's a 3-way fight. For 6th, it's a 3-way fight. Battles everywhere in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup.
This section of the track is where Luke McGrew will be faster than Eric Coutil. The Civic front-wheel drive car doesn't like these really flat, slow corners. Look at how much Luke McGrew's closed up. There's less than a car length between the bumpers, but then we're coming into the Civic's own. These fast, long sweepers, turns 5, 6, and 7, those triple right-handers across the back of this track. The Civic will start to gap just a little bit, which means that Luke McGrew, look at that, this just grown to already 5 car lengths or so, and it's going to continue to do so. McGrew's got to find some speed back there somewhere.
It's so tricky. I mean, Coutil's car is visibly faster through that fast section. I think if McGrew can't get side by side and disrupt that speed, he might have already lost this race, but it was a valiant effort, and it's not over yet. We're only about halfway through this one. The battle for third is continuing behind them, but let's not count out McGrew just yet. They come through the S's, 5 car lengths between them. We'll see if it shrinks in the braking zone.
Did a good job to stick to the back. He only lost maybe a car length or 2 through the S's, but he did lose some space. The battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th is awesome still. That's Lee, Raines, and Cayley. Cayley is a faster car than Raines, but he can't figure out a way around because that BMW is so fast off the corners. Here comes the BMW on the back of Justin Lee. Can he outbrake him? He's going for it.
Into the braking zone for 13, up the inside. He's got it. Raines to P3, move Justin Lee back to 4th. Big dive for Solomon down into turn 13 underneath Jeremy Boysen. He's on the back of Eric Meadows, and the 212 slams through a puddle as the battles continue mid-pack in GLTC.
So now we're chasing. Andrew Raines has taken over the 3rd spot in that black BMW. The black MX-5 of Justin Lee is 4th now. Todd Cayley in the silver S2000 sweeping over the curbs onto the front straightaway. That is the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then about to come into frame is the red MX-5 of Scott Robertson. That's a K24 car. Look at Jeremy Boysen. He's got to run. He's going to take a peek to the outside or the inside of Eric Meadows down the front straightaway.
Todd Cayley's up the inside of, I believe that's Justin Lee down into turn number 1. He's got that pass complete as they head over the curbing. And more battles. There's cars everywhere, all the way back to 9th place. We've got scraps for position.
This is what we've seen pretty consistently. The battle for 4th to 11th yesterday was rowdy. Today it's 3rd through 9th. You call it 10th even. Scott Adams is not totally out of touch. It's off in the distance down into turn 3 now.
Sweeping through the first sector. We're about halfway through this race, a little bit beyond that now. We could expect a white flag within 2 or 3 laps. So Eric Catil has gotten the lead away. He ran quicker still, a 1:55.739. Once that car gets in clean air, Tom, it is unstoppable. But it is quite stoppable if he gets buried in traffic. That's what he'll be in race number 4 when we invert the field, a random number between 4th and 12th. So he could have a lot of work ahead of him in the final race of the weekend.
He'll be no better than 4th and maybe as bad as 12th starting race 4 if he in fact wins this race. He will also be continuing to weigh 150 pounds extra with that rewards weight, and it's just a visible gap growing between he and the number 5 of Luke McGrew coming towards those S's. Look at Andrew Rains has started to pull away in 3rd place. He's got himself a comfortable gap, and Kaylee and Lee, who had exchanged positions down in turn 1, Lee's got the position back. He's up into 4th in the black MX-5.
Lee has gotten the position back. Todd Kaylee now 3 car lengths back on the brakes. He's going to dive here. If he can close just a little bit, 2 car lengths now behind them. Eric Meadows and Jeremy Boysen, they're separated by 4 car lengths, 3 car lengths, 2 car lengths. That RSX so good on the binders as they head into 13. The field stretching back out onto the front straightaway again. Catil leads this lap as well. Only one driver has ever swept an entire GLTC weekend, and that was 2019 Road America for Aaron Lichty. So this will be a second time ever occurrence if Catil can wrap up both races today.
I think Jeremy Boysen might have a run back a little further out of this shot, but Kaylee also has a run. Look at the draft on that S2000. He's going to go alongside Justin Lee at the start-finish line, and he's got a ton more space down this front straightaway. He completed this pass last time, wasn't able to hold the position for the lap, but he's going to go for it again.
He's got it as they head down into turn number 1. He's re-cleared Lee, and this is exactly how it happened last time, but Justin was able to take the spot back on exit. He's going to do it as Kaylee slams into a puddle. They sweep through turn number 2 and 3, and I think Lee might be able to grab that spot back before they head down the backstretch again.
I agree. I think he got in some water and slowed down, so Lee easily just drove right around the outside. I almost thought maybe Kaylee had a problem for a minute, but he's back on speed. Behind, Scott Robertson has fallen into the clutches of Eric Meadows and Jeremy Boysen. That's the 3-car train on the left side there, the red Miata of Robertson, the silver MX-5 of Meadows, and then the black RSX of Jeremy Boysen, which is really fast in a straight line. Look at these guys compress at the apex of turn 4, but the power of that little Miata motors up and drives away for a minute. Jeremy Boysen showing the nose, going to fall back in line for turn 5.
Yeah, in front of them, Justin Lee has gotten back around Kaylee, so they've swapped positions a handful of times already, and they will continue to do that likely in the laps that we have remaining here. Catil sweeping through the S's, McGrew down a couple, about 15, 20 car lengths, but this battle for 6th spot still 3 cars strong as they head towards the S's section. Robertson with that kind of Dodge Charger Daytona style wing on the back of it, and then Eric Meadows with no arrow, and then Boysen with a bullet-shaped RSX.
They're going to spread out just a little bit. Looks like Jeremy Boysen is really quick in the S's. Eric Meadows holding him up a little bit with no arrow on that car. Boysen's got just enough of a lip to keep the back end of that car planted, but then when they get on the brakes, they close down to the back bumper of the red Miata at the front. That red Miata has no ABS. Scott Robertson, he's got to be on the brakes a little bit sooner, and Meadows and Boysen have completely compressed that battle. Look at him sweeping into turn 15. Up for 3rd. It looks like Kaylee's found some pace. He's got around Justin Lee that lap somewhere. We missed that one, and he's charging towards Andrew Rains.
And while all this is happening, the white flag is out at the starter stand. 1 lap remaining here in GLTC race number 3. Eric Catil leads by almost 3 seconds. 1:54.387 was his best lap so far. Now down the front straight, Boysen side by side with Eric Meadows. He's going to slam through the puddle on the straightaway at 120 miles an hour, and now up the inside for turn number 1.
Deep on the brake. Scott Robertson gets a break, but Boysen completes the pass. Kaylee is there. He's on the bumper of their Andrew Rains. It's a black BMW going into turn 3, leads the way over the silver S2000, and Kaylee really only has a couple corners
there he
opportunities
goes.
left, but Andrew Rains washes wide, and he just easily drives up the inside.
Not quite. They're going to still stay side by side here as they head to the right-hander and into the corner. Rains is going to grab it back. He's going to stay off of the curbing, out of the puddles, and drag race up out. And 2 rear-wheel drive sports cars of very different designs are racing each other here in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup.
Remember, Andrew Rains is on a treaded race tire. Todd Kaylee is on a slick race tire, so that S2000 is quicker through the corners. He's able to hold the outside, but through the water, that's going to be hairy with no tread. He's going to keep pushing the issue. It's not going to work this time. Rains making that BMW very wide, and now that's brought Justin Lee back into the factor.
Yeah, they're going to continue to race each other as we head towards the S's. Look at Lee popping out to driver's right. Not really an opportunity to pass here just yet. He'll have to fall into line as they sweep on through to one of the highest speed sections on the racetrack. For Eric Catil, though, final couple corners for him. He is well out front, and while he had to work harder for it this time, he will come out of turn number 16, and he will go 3 for 3. Eric Catil will win race number 3 here in GLTC. Meanwhile, behind him, Rains, Kaylee, and Justin Lee continue to battle for third spot.
Andrew Rains puts all the chips on the brakes into turn 13, and it pays off. He was able to defend from Todd Cayley, who had a little bit of a run, and I think with the power of that BMW, if he doesn't make a mistake in the last couple corners, this is Rains to lose. The black BMW holding up the silver S2000 and the black MX-5. These guys have all held each position once, but Rains tacks her up, dumps her down the front straight, and he's going to hold the position over Todd Cayley. 2 podiums for Andrew Rains.
Nose to tail as they come across the line, about a car length separating each. Rains, Kaylee, Justin Lee, then side by side to the line. Boysen and Robertson drag racing. I don't know. I think it's Robertson got it by maybe 6 inches as they come across the line. Timing and scoring has it. Let's see what it says. It says Boysen by 63 thousandths of a second for 6th spot.
I don't know about that. We got to go cut back and see where the transponders are on those cars respectively, because I would give the nod to Scott Robertson as well. We can cut back to that one and see, but that was so close. The 21 car of McDonald completes the race. The 11 in, the 21 in 11th. That car was not healthy, but he completes it. Holy cow.
Was that an awesome race? I'm just giddy over here. That was so fun. That was so fun. But that's the best racing anywhere. There's no better racing that you can watch for free on YouTube. This is and Facebook. This is where it's at. GRIDLIFE Touring Cup at GRIDLIFE Bayou Bash here at Nola Motorsports in 2020. This is the 2021 season beginning, and this is only just the start. Such strong battles. Eric Cattell again battling Luke McGrew for the first couple laps, eventually winning that. Behind them, Rains, Kaylee, and Lee had a 3-car scrap. Then Boysen, Robertson, and Meadows, as well as Ronnie Solomon, having a fight for the ages. What an amazing battle there, Tom. I cannot wait for race number 4 later.
And it just gets better and better because someone between Todd Cayley and Patrick Reyes will start on pole. We're inverting the top 4 to 12 cars. It's a random draw that the race director chooses, not chooses, but selects, and that always makes race 4. I mean, it just ramps up. I can't wait to see it. Your arms are going to go through the roof on that one.
I've been fist pumping this entire race. It's just so good, Tom. I'm sorry. It's just fun to watch, man. But as the field rolls through, the S's on their cool down lap, the heart rates will come down, the tire temps will come down. Everybody will get a couple hours to relax just a little bit. Here is the schedule for the rest of the day. Of course, we've got Time Attack coming up at 12:20. GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4 at 1 o'clock. Remember, all these times are in Central. Drift at 1:30. Then we'll wrap up the day with Time Attack at 2:20. It's been a fun day so far. More to continue a little bit later. We'll be back in just a little bit. We're going to thank some of our sponsors, and we'll see it later this afternoon. Of course, GRIDLIFE Live is brought to you by Falken, the RT660 tire, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. And by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. 303 Performance. 303 Graphene Nano Spray Coating, the future of exterior protection. And GRIDLIFE Live is brought to you by Mike's Harder.
Dude, that's sweet.
And by Hawk Performance. Race proven, street legal. And by BC Racing. Go for gold with BC Racing's highly engineered custom coilovers that puts you in control of every driving condition. And by Hybrid Racing, premium Honda racing gear. We'll see you later at 12:20 Central. Thank you so much for watching GRIDLIFE Live. We'll see you later today.